still have this Pioneer player you bought when you were 16?
No, I don't. I think I traded it in for an old Vardia CD player, or at that time it was a relatively new CD player. But it was my very first high-end buy. That was the PD. I can't remember the number of it, but it was the stable platter mechanism from Pioneer, and that was how everything started for me.
Yeah. But why was it so important for you to have this particular model?
I think it was very innovative in its built out. At that time, Pioneer still had a very, very strong reputation. And I liked the fact that you had this stable mechanism where this platter was upside down. And it was very unique. It was great looking and it was good sounding, and yeah.
I've read that as a kid you used to listen to Bowie, Queen, Hendrix on the B&O audio system of your parents.
Yeah.
And the Callas on the Lenco system of your grandfather.
Yeah, it's true.
So you already searched for best hi-fi in the family?
I'm not sure, but I think, back in the 70s and 80s, it's a lot of Danish parents and people, they were buying Bang & Olufsen, it was hot and everyone wanted it, and we had this system at home, and my parents, they were very much not involved in music, but they loved music, and they went to live concerts, they went to see Cream and Jethro Tull and so on. And so it was a part of my upbringing that we always had music in the home. And at my parents' place, it was mostly rock and roll, Jimi Hendrix and so on. And I enjoyed that a lot. But at my grandfather's place, it was always classical music, and it was always opera, and especially Maria Callas. So I got the best of two worlds. And I'm confident, or I'm convinced that it was because of my parents and my grandparents' love to music, that it just started, growing something inside of me, that music became such a big part of my life as well.
But you said that your parents often go to concert, but did they brought you?
That was probably before I was born or when I was little, but when they met and they were young, they very often went to concerts. Yeah, but I never went with them.
Do you remember your first concert?
I probably do. I think it was actually with a Danish band.
Yeah.
And I think it was together with my father. It was called Rune Skov. Hard to pronounce. But they were big back in the 70s and 80s in Denmark. It was one of those classical bands, in Denmark, rock and roll hop band. But I think that was my first concert, and I was not very old.
Do you think that great artists deserve only the best sound?
I think great music, no matter how it's displayed or if it's on a small radio and so on, that you can hear that there is something in it. You can hear the passion. You can hear the intentions by the artists. So, and it's also why, when you are driving in your car, or you're out there on the streets, or you're sitting in a cafe and you suddenly listen to Bowie or whatever, that's something, you recognize that, and you can hear that it's actually great music. But I think, really for the artists, I think it's important that we actually treat their artwork with respect, and that we try to reproduce it in the best possible way as it was intended to be listened to. And that's where we as a brand, it comes into the picture. because it's like going to an art museum. Do you prefer to look at the poster, or do you prefer to see the real painting?
Yes, but do you prefer to go to listen to a record or a live performance?
It really depends. I think at some point, you know, sometimes you are lucky that you have a good enough system, and that the recording has been made it has been captured, you know, the right way, that you feel everything. And when you sit down, it's also a matter of the mood you are in. You know, sometimes it's just nice sitting there at home listening to the record that you really love, and you're just in the right state of mind, and it can be wonderful. Going to a concert is something different, because you probably know, if it's, you know, a big live concert, that the acoustics might not be good, and but the atmosphere, that people there are there, you know, because they all love that band, or they all love that kind of music. So, and it's like watching, let's say, Formula One live. You know, you are in one spot, you see the cars coming down to the corner, they brake, and then they take off. You will do that for 70 rounds, 70 laps. However, on the telly, you get much more information. You get to see all the bits and details and so on. But that can also be very, very good. So I think it depends on, you know, where you are and so on. Yeah.
If you could sell an audio system to a musician, living or dead, who would you choose, and what audio system?
Wow. I think there are a couple of musicians that I would love to, that I would have met in person. One of them is, of course, David Bowie.
That's why you've got the star, or no?
Plenty of stars.
No,
The Black Star.
Black Star.
Yeah. And Prince. Both of them, they were probably some of the best musicians, artists, songwriters, so ahead of the curve, so ahead of their time. And I love their music my entire life. It's just so dear to me. So if I could get the chance to build a system for one of those guys, that would be nice. So it would also depend, should the system be in the living space? Should it be in a dedicated, like, man cave thing, or whatever, you know? But let's say that you have a system that the artist could listen to all day, wherever he or she is. You know, I would probably build something around what you see here, with a pair of EOS 5 and Diablo 333, and use our Ether CD player with the DAC built in. Or maybe, you know, to interact even more with the system, use the new Apollo turntable, you know, to interact with the vinyl and so on. I think that would be a cool system. It will not be too complex, but the level of performance is something that, you know, everyone will appreciate that. But of course, it's always great fun creating big systems, you know, like Apex Commander and so on, with the Kodo speakers. But that becomes something where you say, okay, it is something where I want to sit, I want to spend a lot of time around that system, because it's like going to a concert. You are there, you know, you're in the zone. But for an everyday use, and for the ease of it, but also for the aesthetics, because I think the products, they're beautiful, they speak to you. And I'm pretty confident that a guy like David Bowie, he would appreciate something like this.
So if I understand you well, you feel a certain responsibility for the artists. You are making their work available for the public.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's important, and I think that we have to recognize and that we have to treat it with respect. Then when we design something, that what we can reproduce comes as close as possible to what was intended from the artist. That we don't try to add all sorts of layers or coloration. Of course, it is something that every manufacturer will say, that we don't add coloration, we don't do this. But I think you have to have some kind of purity. You have to have a very clear philosophy, what neutral sound is. That, yeah, a record might be recorded in a bad quality, and it will be reproduced like that. You can hear it. And that's about having integrity and staying honest, and being honest towards the recorded material. I think that's key. That's a part. I think it's an important part of why we are alive as a company.
So your goal is perfection. Perfect.
I think perfection is a very, very big word, because nothing is perfect. We are always aiming for perfection. But what is perfection? And it's a thing that moves constantly. The boundaries, they're moving. But we have to get as close as possible. Otherwise, it's pointless. It's also something that keeps us alive and makes it fun, that we know that every time we design something that we can get just a little bit closer.
Talking about your tattoos, which tattoo are you the most proud of, and the one you regret the most?
I don't have any tattoos that I regret. They all represent a part of me. I decided when I was 18, that it should tell a story about me. So it's like having a diary. So
I hope you're tall.
Yeah. So when important stuff has happened in my life, or it can be tragic moments, or it can be good moments, I have had a tattoo made. And I can be a little bit personal about it. I have a black rose on one side of my neck, and it was when I got divorced. And the red one was when I found love again. I have this rose on my hand, and it goes up to here, and it has the name Anna Alberta on it, because that was our daughter who passed away when she was born in 2016, sorry. So this one probably means the most to me, because it carries the story of our daughter, and she will always be with me. So yeah.
I've seen that you've got a Real Madrid tattoo.
Yeah.
So you're a very, very big fan.
I am. I'm what you call a Madridista.
What do you think of the possibility that Zidane would coach the French national team?
I hope he will.
Yes, but he will have to leave the
Yeah.
the Real Madrid. So
no, Zidane is no longer. He's still involved with Madrid, but not at the same level as he used to be. But I think it would be a good thing.
What do you love the most, football or music?
I think it's difficult to put it.
Have you got a music tattoo?
I actually carry, which is kind of interesting, because I carry the logo for my previous employer when I worked with Nordos Cables in Boston. And that was where I really stepped into the industry. And to honor that, I got their logo tattooed on my arm by an old tattoo artist in Hong Kong. It was done around midnight. I think he was terrible drunk.
And you?
I was 100% okay. But he was, in his 80s, and he was shaking and so on. But it was kind of cool getting that, mate. But saying what do I love the most, music or football? I think
I will ask the same question, but you'll understand. If you had to choose between the Ziggy Stardust 1772 concert, the final one, or a final with a Real Madrid,
I'll do the final with Real Madrid.
So I've got the answer of my question.
Yeah.
Come on, Ziggy Stardust's last concert.
Yeah. Nah, maybe not. Maybe not. I think that's too difficult. It's an unfair question. It's so difficult to answer. But all my sons, they carry a name from a Real Madrid player.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Okay, you're a big fan.
Yeah.
You start your career as a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
Then you became an history, mathematics teacher.
Yeah.
Have you ever regret this life as a transmitter?
No.
Never?
No. When I was young and I was working in the kindergarten, and after that 12 years as a school teacher at a private school, I really, really loved my job. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I enjoyed the interaction with the young students, with their parents as well, because you have to have a close relationship with their parents because it's a big responsibility. Of course. That you have the kids around you 8 hours a day, and so it needs to be a very close relationship that you have. I love the fact that you are getting to interact with young people, fresh minds, different ideas, having discussions with them and allowing them to grow as human beings. I really, really like that. It was just because I got this chance of stepping into the industry full-time, working with a manufacturer, that I decided, to grab it and say, you are in your late 30s. It's probably, maybe it's a one-time opportunity. Go get it, do it. And so I decided to do that. But it was also a bit scary thing to do, leaving something that I felt that I was good at and something that I enjoyed doing every day. And then stepping into a completely new territory, a new universe.
But what did you learn with this experience that helps you in the music industry?
I think communication is a key thing, that no matter who you interact with, no matter who you're gonna meet on your way, wherever you are in the world, that you have an open mind, that you treat people with respect, that you respect cultural differences, that you understand cultural differences. So I think that it made the transition from being a teacher, where you communicate with people all day long, it made that transition much easier getting into the industry, because the way that I see it is that we do business with people.
Yeah.
And companies are defined by human beings. So if you have an open mind and you really want to learn new things, learn stuff about people, actually allowing them to tell their story, you have a fair chance of becoming quite successful. It's very similar. It's because when you enter a classroom, you are on stage. You're vulnerable, because you will have 30 kids sitting there, and they all have high expectations from you.
Would you say that you are a workaholic? Workaholic, sorry.
Being a workaholic sounds like a very negative thing, because alcoholic, workaholic, so on. I love working. You know, when you are, I think when you are very happy at your workplace, very happy at what you're doing, you bring back good energy to the family. But it's also vice versa. It has to work at home. Otherwise, you can't perform when you're out there. So when people there are talking about work-life balance and stuff like that, you know, what is that? What is work-life balance? Because for me, it all goes like this.
It's linked.
It's linked.
Yeah.
And I consider most of my business partners as most of them as very good friends, close friends. A lot of them, I know their families, they know my family. So everything is linked. And it means that if I take a call at 11 o'clock in the night, there is a reason why someone is calling me at that time, knowing that it's 11 o'clock at night in Denmark. It's because they need me. And do I lose anything from taking that call? I'm actually helping someone, which is very, very rewarding, and it gives you a good feeling. And hopefully, when you help that person, that he or she is able to do what he or she needs to do. So I think it's also a matter of respectful, you know, being very respectful towards each other, that my partners, they know if they contact me very late, it better be for a good reason. But I love working, you know, remotely, and because I work like in slots, so I might be super productive for 1 hour, then I might be not that productive for 30 minutes, and then I drink a coffee and whatever, and then I'm productive again. So the day for many people will seem very long, but for me, you know, it's dynamics. So it's good. It's good because in the middle of the day I can go with my kids to sports or whatever, or we can go down to the cafe and hang out for an hour, and then I can go back and start working again. But it's also the fact that, you know, that I'm in charge of the globe in terms of business partners. So, and you know, people from LA, there is a 9 hours difference,
And Japan
and so on. So, and then you have Asia, you gotta communicate with Asia in the morning, and Europe during the afternoon, and in the evening it's US. So yeah, it can seem to be a very long day, but I think, you know, as long as it isn't a stressful factor, but it's actually because it becomes a kind of a hobby thing. And yeah, it works. For me, it works.
You often say that working for Gryphon is not just a job, as you just said, and that it defines you as a human being.
Yeah.
What would be that definition of a human being? That's it.
Hopefully trustworthy, having integrity, honest, performance, interaction, communication. I think that what defines us as a brand in many ways. but it also, I think it defines me as a human being, because my line of work is very much communication, and it's something, it's building trust, it's building relationships. I think Gryphon has also taught me something, that creating a special family feeling. For me, it becomes a family feeling, and it is a family feeling where I'm trying, or hopefully succeeding, by including our partners, our loyal end users, into this Gryphon family. We call the Gryphon fans for Gryphonistas, and I hope that we as a brand is capable of creating something a little bit bigger, a sense of a family feeling, and that's probably also why I love what I do. Sorry, when I travel the globe, that I get to meet end users, that I get to meet all our partners, and we have this unity. It's we stand united, and we have a great time together.
As an audiophile, you finally managed to work for this legendary brand.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'm proud. I'm super proud. I think you can compare it to someone who's working even in the assembly division at Lamborghini or at AMG or Ferrari. I think that people, they go to work and they are very proud of representing something very unique, something with a long history, with a legacy and heritage. I feel the same.
This legacy, this heritage, is it a burden or is it a blessing?
It's a blessing. It's not a burden.
But you've got to be...
Yes, but that's also a motivation. It's also a big motivation. I think if you feel it as a burden, you become restrained and you are not capable of performing at the highest possible level. Sometimes you have to make some decisions, and some of them, they might not be great. Some of them you make decisions, you fail, but that's part of life, and it's also part of running a company. That if you don't try anything, nothing will happen. But you have to do it with respect for the brand, for the heritage, and I think the initial ideas of when the company was founded, created, have, sticking to those core values and ideas, but then refresh things now and then. I not long ago, I saw this comment. It was on LinkedIn, and there is a very, I think, a brilliant Portuguese architect, and he just made a comment. It was in a long thread, and that comment made so much sense to me. He said, to think outside the box, you have to break it and reshape it. And I think that's what we're also trying to do, with the respect of the past and why we were founded 40 years ago.
Speaking of the philosophy and the shape, do you think that sound and design are linked? You've got to be beautiful to be the best?
I think it's very, very important. Very important. You invest in some components, some products, and you will have to look at them every day. Our products, they need to stand out in a sculptural way, and I think they have always done that. It has varied over time, but it has always maintained the same distinct design. Some people, they are not too fond of it. Others, they love it. But there is no doubt that performance, because that's the key parameter. Performance is number one. It needs to perform at the highest possible level, but it also needs to look great.
If you could make a collaboration with a famous designer, who would it be?
Whew. Wow. We tend to call it like Nordic noir, but it's also a very strict Scandinavian design. We know the lines that we have very often been using 3 different forms, a circle, a square, and a triangle, and combined them in different shapes. I think that it also needs to be, so that's very much what defines us, and it's black. It's bold, it's heavy. So there are some certain design features that has been going, that has been following us since day one. And I think it's important to stay true to those design philosophies. I think when you look at a Gryphon, it's sometimes I look at it and I say, this is like a Mercedes G-Class, the G-Wagon. It's bold, it shows power. Or is it like a Lamborghini? It's still refined, it's elegant, but it's also very brutal. So we have some certain criterias that we have to fit into when we design, which is very, very important for us, because that's also a huge part of why Gryphonistas, they love the brand. It's also the aesthetics. So that's important. But who would I like to have as a co-designer? That's a very, very good question.
Yes, but I want a very, very good answer.
Yeah, yeah. And if it should be, that's a very good question. And right now I'm blank, because I could probably say I love what this designer did for instance, in the clothing industry, or it could be in the car industry or whatever, or an architect, whatever. So and it would be an offense not to mention someone, but
no, it's okay if you don't have an answer.
I think it's very, very difficult to answer, because I think there are so many skilled designers out there, and some of them, they are restricted to a certain design philosophy within a company. They have to follow those guidelines, but then they can add bits and pieces and small touches here and there. There's no doubt that some of the stuff that some of the Lamborghini designers, they do, or Pininfarina did in the past, and so on, what they have done is very, very unique. The collaboration, or the designer, or the partner to collaborate with, I really don't have that specific answer for you. I'm so sorry.
No,
yeah.
I was wondering, because later on you said you've got a tattoo of the first HiFi brand you work for. What are you waiting for having a Gryphon tattoo?
There is one specific goal that I can't share with you now. When that is happening, then I'm going to have the Gryphon tattoo. And I know where it is going to be, but sometimes, you set goals for yourself, and I need to achieve that goal. When I achieve that, then I'm going to have it.
Okay, so I will know that.
You will know that.
Yeah.
You will know that, and then I'm going to share the story.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good question. That's a very good question.